Blog Talk Radio.
Good evening and welcome to Golf Talk Live. I'm your host, Ted Odorico, broadcasting live every Thursday, 6 to 8 p.m. Central from Panama City Beach, Florida, home of the world's most beautiful beaches. I want to take this opportunity to thank everyone for joining me on my weekly broadcast. Every week, I'll feature some of the best instructors, coaches, authors, and entrepreneurs in the golf business today. I begin with a great discussion on Coach's Corner, followed by an insightful interview with my special guest. So let's get started by introducing tonight's Coach's Corner panel. All right, and welcome once again, everybody, for joining me live tonight on the show. Very, very excited. I know you're all probably sick and tired of sitting around and not being able to get out and enjoy as much. And some of you that are not able to work, our thoughts and prayers with you. Hopefully this thing will end sooner than later and everybody can get back to a sense of normalcy. But in the meantime, I'm glad that you guys joined us tonight and are tuning into the broadcast. We've got a great show for you. As mentioned, I'm going to be introducing the Coach's Corner panel here in just a moment. And then a little bit later on, my special guest is Dave Shultz. He's the CEO of Nextlinks. He's actually been on the show, hasn't been on for a few years, but he's come back and we got some very interesting things to chat about tonight on the show. So I'm very excited to have him back. And we'll continue that conversation and sort of pick up from where we left off, if you will. But in the meantime, let me just tell you a little bit about the sponsors of the show. Golf Talk Live, of course, is brought to you by the iGolf Sports Network and Golf Tips Magazine. iGolf Sports Network is a live stream broadcast and media production company providing top quality programming designed to attract the golfing enthusiast. And Golf Tips, the game's most in-depth instruction magazine, offering insightful reviews on the latest equipment, tips from top LPGA and PGA teaching professionals, all designed to help improve your game from tee to green. So subscribe today at golftipsmag.com. All right, we've got a great show, as I mentioned. I'm going to introduce the panel, and then we're going to get into tonight's discussion. And these guys have been on many, many times. I like to call them my friends now, I guess. First up, of course, is Pete Buchanan, the founder and director of instruction and owner of Plain Simple Golf, which houses the Plain Simple Golf Circuit and the Simple Swing Repeater Training Brace. And he's been teaching for 30-plus years, this wonderful business that we call golf. And I'm glad to have him on the show. Also, another good friend, John Hughes. He's a PGA Master Professional and currently the president of the North Florida PGA section. And he was the recipient of the 2013 PGA of America Horton Smith Award. And he is one of the top 25 instructors for Golf Tips Magazine. So glad to have him aboard as well. And rounding out the panel tonight is Paul Castor. He is one of the country's leading golf coaches, a Golf Channel Academy lead coach, recognized by Golf Digest as one of the best teachers in New Jersey for the 27-28 season. He's also been honored by U.S. Kids Golf as one of the 2017's top 50 kids teachers. He's level 2 certified with TPI, or Titleist Performance Institute, and Aimpoint, and K-Motion. And he also serves on Foresight Sports Advisory Board and the New Jersey PGA's Junior Golf Committee. So guys, welcome back once again to Golf Talk Live's Coach's Corner.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
All right, appreciate it, guys. And hopefully things will proceed without a glitch. You never know this day and age with so many people at home. We'll hopefully we won't have any technical issues tonight. But I want to thank you guys first off. So we're going to talk about a number of ways to help improve your game. And I know that a lot of these might seem very, very simple. But as I mentioned at the top of the program, a lot of us are stuck at home for the most part, and we're not able to get out, depending on where you are, to the golf course and or even to the driving range to practice some of these things. So I'm going to start in the order that I introduced you, and we'll kind of stick with that order rather than mixing it up. And so Pete, I'm going to start with you. And obviously the address position is critical in playing some good golf. So talk a little bit about the address position and why it's important and what sort of makes up a good address.
Well, we all know that looking at the golf swing, you've got to have some good rhythm and balance in it, and it's going to begin with how you set yourself up at address. You look at all the other sports, all the other movements. If you're going to set up to receive a serve in tennis, you're going to have to get yourself ready to go and put yourself, towards the balls of your feet in a good athletic motion, and golf's no different. You've got to put yourself in a position at address that's going to allow you the ability to move relative to what you need to move and, to do the things in the golf swing that are going to be necessary. And, I've always said for a long time that most amateurs miss-hit a ball before they ever hit it, and it starts with they're in the wrong posture to begin with, so the movements that they try to make, they can't make from the positions they put themselves in. And so, the biggest one, we saw for years was, sitting back too much on the heels, and the minute they try to turn, they're immediately falling off balance. And so, you've got to put yourself in a good position, the weight's toward the flat of your feet, flexing the knees, bend forward from the waist, the back's fairly straight. And it doesn't have to be perfectly straight. I mean, you look at some of the greats that played, look at Nicklaus and some of the ones that, their back was a little bit rounded at address. But they were balanced, and that's really the key. So they were balanced in the overall position so they could move. So, I think, when you're looking at the things of impact and things that are really important, the postures are a big key for me in also aiding and getting the solid contact, because the posture can dictate a lot with the angle of attack of what the club does. And if you're in the wrong address position with the posture, you're going to have a hard time getting solid contact unless you make, quite a bit of compensations throughout the golf swing. So it's just easier to set yourself up in a good position to begin with relative with the posture so that you can then move in balance to what you're trying to do.
Right. Well said. And just to sort of wrap that up real quick, Pete, for those listeners that, as I said at the top, that are at home, are there some things that they can do while they're at home to work on some of those? What are some things, obviously having a mirror would be ideal. A good full-length mirror, would help. But what are some things that they can do to help ensure that they're in a good posture?
Well, one of the things I always tell them to do is if you're really in a good setup at address, you ought to be able to lift your heels off the ground without having to move forward. You should be able to just lift them off the ground without changing anything. If you're sitting on your heels, there's no way you can do that. You'll have to rock forward and then push your heels up off the floor. So that's one thing you can do setting up, just trying to get yourself in a good balanced position. And then also, just look at, you can use like the edge of a wall or something. You can put, your backside up against the wall and set yourself down and look to see how, when you move, are you falling away or moving forward? Do you feel the weight shifting off of your platform, I should say? I always like to call it the platform where your legs are sitting on the ground, and how that moves. And you can really use that time just to get yourself, familiar with how to set up to where you're looking at where your arms are hanging down. Is it comfortable? Are you relaxed? Can you move and stay in balance? And just working around with those things indoors, inside. You can hold a club inside. You don't have to swing it, but you can start to move a little bit and see how well balanced you are from that. And just, working at the basic essentials. If you were standing straight up and down, you want to flex your knees a little bit. You want to bend forward from the waist until the weight hits the flat of your feet. Let your arms hang down from your shoulders. That's a great, simple way to start it. You can do that anywhere to see how well you're balanced. And then, obviously, with a golf swing and some of the things that may need to be modified, there might be some little adjustments to the posture to help make those things happen.
Right. Well said. And, these are things that while we're in sort of this homeward bound situation, these are things that we can be working on to keep ourselves sort of tuned up, if you will, when we're not able to maybe in a position to hit some balls. John, I'm going to move to you next. And obviously, there has been for as long as I can remember a premium on hitting, wanting to hit it further. But I think more importantly, is the ability to hit the ball straighter. Talk about, obviously, there's advantages to being able to hit the ball straight. Obviously, I know you can talk about a few of those, but maybe you can also offer some tips, again, while we're at home, of things that they can take note of, that they can maybe work on at home to understand and sort of close that gap a little bit and to understand how to hit the ball straighter?
First off, thanks, Ted, for having me on. Pete, Paul, glad to be on again with you guys. What everybody's got to understand about this time, that as you're working at home, it's about maintaining what you currently have, not necessarily improving what you have. If you were starting an improvement program, there's ways of continuing it. But at the very least, you should be finding ways to maintain what you're currently able to do. As far as accuracy goes, what makes you accurate? Your timing to be able to square the club face to the ball with the path moving in a logical pattern towards a target. And there's no need to try to reinvent the wheel. What a lot of people do during a downtime is just that, try to reinvent the wheel. If it's not broken, why are you trying to fix it? Is the question I ask all my clients. So some easier ways, if you've got a backyard and you can access it, and if you can order through a mail order platform or a big box store, there's a lot of really good practice balls made of foam rubber, dimpled, extremely limited flight. You'd be very surprised how these balls fly. When my son was younger, I used to have dozens of them, and the kids would come in the backyard, set up flags everywhere, and they'd have their own little 9-hole game playing with these balls. But these balls will travel just like a golf ball, pitch shots, chip shots, half swings, trying to make sure that your impact position continues the timing device that it so relies on when you can be out there practicing. That's all it takes. It's a maintenance type of program. If you're looking to improve accuracy, there's tons of different drills you can do, say holding impact against a doorway, or trying to have, as you're holding impact against the doorway, where are your hands in relation to the forward lean of the shaft, in relation to how your body is rotated to create that position. There's a ton of, that's just one example. There's a ton of different things you can do. The real key during this time, if you work with a coach, most coaches are going to have some indoor drills for you to do. If you haven't already got them, time to reach out and get those, number one, because you're going to stay within the plan that you and your coach have created for you. That's real vital. Trying to, again, reinvent the wheel and experiment with things. This isn't necessarily the time to experiment, especially if you were progressing positively through an improvement program. It's time to stick to it, but there's ways to stick to it indoors. Your coach is the best person you can talk to keep that going, to keep the continuity of your program going, keep the relationship going, keep the progress going.
Right. Well said. And you know, you raise a really valid point, and that is, you know, even though you're not physically able to get together, perhaps in some cases with your coach, if you've been working with somebody, this is a time to reach out to them and say, hey, you know, we may be down for a little while. Are there some things that I can be working on that maybe we started, you know, a little bit earlier? Obviously, for those up in the Northeast, that's, you know, it was a little bit colder and whatnot. Maybe they didn't have the opportunity to do this yet, but you know, and haven't had a chance to get out. But this is the time to reach out to your coach or your teaching professional and say, look, while I'm stuck here at home and can't get out, are there some things that I can be working on to help solidify some of the things that we've been you know, talking about over the last season or even earlier in the season, depending on where you're located. So this is a great opportunity to take advantage of that, so that when we are able to get back out, you've got a little bit of a jump on the situation. Paul, and I know as John and Pete, I know all of you guys have an online presence and do a lot of mobile coaching, if you will. And Paul, I know you've been doing some great stuff here recently during this downtime. And one of the areas, obviously, is that's vital to improving your game is working on our short game. But again, you know, direction obviously is critical, but equally as important is the distance, getting that distance control. If you look at the professionals out on tour, obviously they have both down pretty well, but they really focus on their distance control, particularly with their short game. Maybe you can hit home with a little bit of some of the points there, and then maybe talk about some things that you're maybe working with some of your students online to help them deal in that particular area of the short game.
Ted, thank you for having all of us. And I think speed control in the short game, putting in, and wedge play basically boils down to the length of the stroke and your tempo. So starting to really understand how far back you need to take, whether it's a putter or a wedge or an 8-iron, to produce a shot of a certain distance. These are things that you can do indoors, in a lot of cases at least. Small chips, definitely putting, and so if you think about putting and you have maybe a 20 or a 30-foot space, even 15 or 20 feet, you can start focusing on the length of your stroke and correlating the length of your backswing to how far the golf ball is going to go. A good tempo for a putting stroke and a chipping stroke or a pitching motion is basically 2 to 1. So the length of the backswing should be about twice as long as the time it takes for you to get down to the golf ball. And a lot of times practicing with a metronome to kind of ingrain a nice tempo can be a really positive thing. Everybody's a little bit different in terms of the timing and the beats per minute on the metronome, but you'll know when it's too fast. And the interesting thing about working with a metronome is that you're not trying to match the timing of the metronome exactly. If you get it kind of in the right ballpark, your heart actually adjusts to the metronome, and you just kind of fall into this good rhythmic tempo, and your body will adjust to the timing, and you'll find a more consistent timing with your putting stroke, your chipping stroke. So paying attention to seeing how far the ball rolls when you're putting, and matching that to the length of your backstroke can be really helpful. And just kind of getting a sense for, well, if I make a 5-inch backswing, how far does the golf ball go? If I make a 10-inch backswing, how far does the golf ball go? And we don't want to add a lot of energy to the golf club, to putter through impact. You want to kind of feel like you're just sort of dropping it on the golf ball, letting the dead weight of the putter fall on the ball. And you can get a lot of good work done indoors, focusing on those things.
Yeah, well said, Paul. I couldn't agree more. And I think that, as John alluded to earlier, there's some great practice aids out there that you can work with. A lot of these more modern practice balls, the foam balls, for instance, still can be very, very great and very accurate. Obviously, they're not going as far as your typical golf ball, which is a good thing, because you want to be able to work with them in a shorter distance. But they're able to give you some pretty good feedback. And in this day and age, again, most people that have somewhat of a backyard, if they're in an area that they're not currently under snow, which a lot of places are coming out of now, they can be out in their backyard and can be working on some of these things that you guys are talking about. Pete, I'm going to come back to you, and this is an area I know you really like to focus on, the short game, and this is an area that a lot of people struggle with, and there's really a couple of factors. So I'm going to just very quickly set this up, and then I'll let you run with it. Most people, even the pros, certainly they're hitting more than the rest of us, but have a difficult time hitting greens, particularly in regulation. And part of the problem is too many amateurs want to go for it all the time. And if you look at most of the pros, now obviously their game is a little bit more advanced than the rest of us, but typically they like to go in with a real short iron, particularly like their wedges. So talk about really being a little bit smarter in how you approach the hole, so that you're setting yourself up for that nice wedge shot, because I think people are more accurate with their wedges than they are with their longer clubs. So what would be a good strategy maybe, and again, people can be thinking about this and maybe even practicing some things while they're at home, and hopefully when they get out there are going to give them the ability to hit more greens with their wedge.
Well, I mean, it's a great question, Ted. I mean, it'd be really cool if all their par fours were, something off the tee in a wedge. A lot of times they're not. Definitely when you're looking at par fives, it's something that you want to really look at for setting yourself up to get that type of shot for your third one. And not trying to get the second one too close so you're stuck on an in-between shot and making it more difficult for yourself. I think it's very important for them, first of all, to be able to work their wedges, to gain the confidence in them in the first place so that they're going to be able to use them more efficiently when they play. It's a great idea, even in the backyard, if you have some regular balls, or the foam ones are even better, to go out in the back and, pick targets and start working on getting yourself to where you're getting some good contact, but being able to make a swing and hit the ball a certain distance that you see, and really learning to control the ball first of all. And I think once you can start to do that on a shorter basis, you can build that up into a little bit longer swing and still control the ball with the wedges. Easily done, out in the backyard and that type of thing with the shorter clubs. But I think on the holes, when you're really looking at them, one of the things they can do, and I just had this conversation this morning with one of my players, is, pull out the scorecard from your golf course and start taking each hole and start figuring out what's the best way for you to play that hole. And you may surprise yourself that it's not just, trying to hit it, to oblivion off the tee and then, chase your luck from there. I mean, really look at the holes and figure out what are your strengths, what are the best clubs that you play. And sometimes, I'd like for them to use the wedges, but, sometimes it might be a little bit different club. I mean, some guy might be a little better with a 9 or an 8, and try to set yourself up so you're driving the ball off the tee so you can hit those clubs that you're the best with into the greens. And I know when I played, I was always best with the 6, 7, and 8, and I tried to drive it off the tee to leave myself one of those irons into the green because I knew I could play those the best. So, really look at your own golf course, look at your scorecard, start picking those holes apart. And, in today's technology, I mean, most of them probably have the layout of the hole on their phone, and they can go ahead and take a look at it and measure that all out and start to get a much better game plan for each hole on what you're trying to do. And I think they might surprise themselves as to how better they can prepare for those shots into the greens by playing clubs that they are more confident with, but they are better with into those to be able to hit more greens in regulation. It'd be great if, as I said from the beginning, if the par fours were, a length enough off the tee for them that they would be hitting wedges all the time. But a lot of them aren't going to be that way. But then again, on that side of the coin, you don't want to hit yourself into shots getting the ball too close to the green, and then you've got too many in-between ones. I know the first hole where I played and grew up at, I mean, it was a driver wedge hole, but I never hit driver wedge on that hole because it was too early in the round. I mean, if you really hit a good drive down, you're something in between. I always hit like a 3 or 4 iron off the tee and left myself a fuller shot into the green. Easier way to get yourself started. So those types of things, I think, the wedges are great, but I think a lot of times too, there's some other ways you can look at the golf course itself and really start to set yourself up so that you can hit more greens based on the decisions that you make off the tee for the clubs you're going to be hitting into those greens. Well
said, Pete. And you're exactly right. I think you have to be smart about it. A lot of guys will, off the tee try to bomb their drive, and they get down there and their second shot they, hit another good shot and get so close, especially on some of the longer holes, and then they've got a very in-between shot. And it's just not always, depending on how tight their short game is not always the best option to take. John, I want to talk to you about working and improving from 6 feet in, and obviously we're on the putting surface now, and this is an area which you'd be surprised at how many people really fall short. They hit a good shot in, maybe they've they're 10, 12, 15 feet or more away from the hole, and they think they're going to leg it down on some of the longer putts, and they ended up blowing it past several feet because they haven't read things correctly. And you'd be surprised at how many struggle within a 6-foot radius of that, where that pin position is. What are some things that you try to work with your students so that when they get into that area, that they're going to have some confidence and knowing that even if they're a little further away on their approach shots, they know that if they get it in within that 6 feet, more often than not, the percentages they're going to sink those putts or make more of them than less of them. What are some things that you work with your students?
Well, the first thing I have amateurs understand is the make percentage from 6 feet relative to them and their skill level versus, say, a tour pro. And have them understand that professionals who tour the country playing practice these putts religiously for the simple reason that these are the ones that cost them or make them the most money. There's a lot of different drills that these guys do, but I think the biggest thing they do is they practice this under extreme duress to where there's circumstantial items involved, similar to how they would be playing out on tour with that last putt on 18 within 4 feet, making or breaking $100,000 into their bank accounts. They're constantly practicing this under pressure. So little do I see amateurs even look at trying to make more 3-footers, nonetheless 6-footers. So one of the common staple drills that I give all clients, I don't care what skill level they are, Ben Hogan's made it famous. For a long time, we saw Phil Mickelson on the practice green. The TV cameras would cut to him doing a variation of this. I call it the around the world or your comfort circle drill. And it's really simple. If you were to take a alignment stick, your driver, whatever it is, and you're just measuring north, south, east, and west from a hole, putting tees into the green and marking those distances and starting with 4 balls. And it's very simple. Make all 4 in a row. Just make all 4 in a row. If you miss, set them all up again. Don't keep going. That's cheating yourself, and that's where most people don't understand that is how they cheat themselves. When you miss that 3rd one out of 4, start it again. If you miss the 4th one out of 4, don't say, well, 3 out of 4 is okay. You can't do that on the golf course. 3 out of 4 is not okay on the golf course. It's you've got one and one shot only. So reset them. And a lot of the times I'll give this particular drill to people at the end of their practice when they're a little bit fatigued. To me, there's a difference between tired and fatigued. I learned this 40 years ago as a professional soccer player. When you're fatigued, you can still think. When you're tired, it's difficult to think, and your body's just not working, period. So when you are fatigued, you've spent that hour on the range ball striking or whatever it is, go to the putting green, try this. Start with 4 balls from 3 feet. If you can make all 4 and you do that 2 or 3 practice sessions in a row, why not put 6 balls down from 3 feet? If you can do that 2 or 3 practice sessions, why not put 8 down? The more balls you put there, the more pressure you put on yourself. And with the more pressure that you put on yourself, when you've made 4 and you've got 4 more, now all of a sudden you're going, what am I going to do here? I'll give you the hint to this. Don't ever sacrifice your pre-shot routine from not only a piece by piece, what are the pieces of your pre-shot routine, but make sure you're doing it in the same tempo. Oftentimes under stress, what happens is you speed up. So by the time you've got the pressure on that 7th and 8th ball from 3 feet, you're going to be going a little faster. Deep breaths, slow yourself down, make them. And there's no excuse, just to make them. When you can take that comfort circle and make it bigger, whether you are off the green, chipping, pitching, bunker shot, if you're 200 yards out and you put it on the green and you got an 85-foot putt. Doesn't matter. When you know that you can sink 95 to 98% of your 3 to 4 footers because you've practiced them, all of a sudden lag putting becomes much easier. All of a sudden chipping from off the green becomes much easier. All of a sudden pitch shots from no man's land become much, much easier. It's a matter of practicing it. And if you're not practicing it, got no one to blame but yourself for those that you miss. You know, you were talking 6 feet. Let's start at 3 feet and be able to make those, and over time bring yourself back into that 6 foot area. When you can do that, you're going to be highly surprised at yourself with the scores you shoot under pressure.
You know, that's a great some great points, John. You know, I have watched over the years a lot of our amateur golfers who are not necessarily very long off the tee or even from out in the fairway, but boy, when they get around that green, you know, they're right up there. They just have worked and honed. They know they don't have the distance anymore that they once did, especially some of our older golfers, but they've done just exactly what you said. They've worked on that short game, particularly on the green, and they've gotten themselves to a point that they can pretty much, in most cases, they can get on the shorter ones, they can get there in 2, on the longer ones, of course, 3. But once they get in that short range, they're able to increase their percentage of up and downs is just incredible. And within that short circle, as you said. Paul, I want to talk to you about this is a little bit different, and when I refer to this, again, I'm going to just explain a little bit. I'm not referring to on the greens, but another area of really reading and understanding your shots is from various points, whether it be from the tee or even another point along the fairway. A lot of people have difficulty visualizing the shot. They just get up there and they say, well, I need to advance it, 150 yards down, and they kind of get a target in mind, but they don't really. Most professionals, as we all know, are target specific. They know exactly where they want the ball to land. They know the distance they want it to go. But many of our amateurs have a hard time handling that. So when you're working with a student and you're trying to help with their accuracy and you're trying to get them to get into a mindset or a frame, if you will, of being more accurate along the way throughout their 18 holes, what are some things that you work on? How do you help them achieve that sort of target-rich environment?
I walk them through how I would think about the shot, and I think a lot of times students are kind of surprised about the level of detail and the things that I'm taking into account. So the lie of the golf ball, the direction of the wind, the temperature, where the flag is, what the green's doing, what the surrounding, the green surrounds are, whether it's a bunker, is there a place you can run the golf ball up, all of the factors that are going to go into the shot. And, when you work your way from the golf ball, let's just say from the golf ball to the hole in terms of all the different things that could affect the shot, you create an image for yourself in terms of how the golf ball needs to fly and where it's going to land and all of that. So you start to visualize because you're thinking about how all of these things are going to affect the golf ball, and that will also help you choose a club. So starting not just with the yardage and the golf club, but thinking about how are the conditions going to affect the shot? How is the golf ball going to fly? Is it going to come off low, high? How does that affect how I choose the golf club? Is a really good way of thinking about it. And I think, during playing lessons, I try to talk people through that process because any of us who are golf instructors have played golf enough. Mm-hmm. We've had enough laps around the golf course, and we've played in enough tournaments that our understanding and experience is different from most of our students. So I think it really helps them to hear that process really out loud. And I try to do that as much as I can during playing lessons. Yeah,
and I think that's a really good point, Paul, that I think that the students need to understand from us, when we're working with them, what we're thinking about. Now, obviously their situation may be different when they're out on the course and they're faced with a specific scenario, how they might handle it, but understanding the thought process. And, even though there was a lot of information that you're looking at, you're doing it relatively quickly. It's not like you're spending an hour over each shot thinking about all these various things. It's a very quick process, and that comes with experience, and that comes with understanding what to filter out. One of the biggest problems that I see, and I'm sure you would all agree, is most amateurs, when they step up to a shot, they're looking at all the trouble and they're thinking about the trouble. I got to avoid that water hazard over here, or I've got to make sure I don't hit it in that bunker. And instead of focusing on where they want the ball to go, and certainly being observant of what's around them, whether it's a windy condition or or other climate factors, but they're focusing on the trouble and all of the negative parts of that particular shot, instead of focusing on where they want the ball to go and how they need to accomplish that. So those are some great points, and these are things that, again, as I said at the beginning, that you can be working on at home. Just because you can't hit full shots, or just because you're not out at the golf course, you can, with technology, you can get online, and if you've got a favorite course that you're playing, or if you're a member at a course, you can get out there and you can look at the holes and you can work out some strategy. And if you're doing some online lessons with one of these guys here, that's a great opportunity to say, hey, you know what, let's take a look at my course that I'm going to be playing here in hopefully a short period of time, and help me put together a strategy that's going to engage me and help me to understand how to play each of the holes a little bit better. There's lots of things that you can do, and there's lots of tips that your coach or instructor can help you with. Pete, I'm going to come back up to you, and this is an area that a lot of folks understand or have an issue with. And we all want to hit the ball far. We want to be able to play, but I think learning and understanding your physical capabilities is crucial. I don't know how many times I'll see students will come to me and they will say, I want to do this or I want to do that, and they really don't have the ability. It's not that they don't have the skill set, but they don't have the physical ability. Maybe they've had some old injuries that prevent them from completing a full backswing that maybe you and I would do, or maybe there's some other issues that they have. And obviously when you're working with a student, especially the first time, you're going to do an assessment. You're going to kind of gather your information to find out what their current abilities are and help them work towards a better setup and system along the way. So talk a little bit about that, how it's important to really unpack that information right at the get-go to be able to make an informed decision on how, based on your current abilities, how you have to modify or make changes to your game.
Well, that's another great one, Ted. First of all, in that assessment, it's very important to be able to test them to see what they can and can't do, not just from, their ability to hit shots, but, physical movements. Are there certain motions and movements they can make, can't make? And, if there are some issues there, can they be, addressed, and can they be corrected? I have, fortunately for me, I'm able to work with one of the top chiropractors, and when we have some issues that we come across, sometimes it's just a simple mobility issue that they've got some things going on that can be corrected, and then we can make those motions that we need to make. So sometimes there's a simple solution that way. But yes, you have to look at the ability of the student, and then you have to start to talk to them about what their goals are. And then based on those abilities and some of those limitations, you have to start to explain to them that, some of the movements may have some limitations into what you can do, but that by no means you can't play and, do the scoring and play as well as you want to with those goals. But you have to understand what your limits are, and then what we can do with the golf swing to address those and make whatever compensations we would have to make based on those limitations to be able to get you to strike the ball the best way that you can. The thing I always try to tell people is, the ball only knows the club's going to hit it. So as long as we can get you into a motion that's going to make the club and the ball behave properly, you don't have to look like, Dustin Johnson or Phil Mickelson. You just have to be able to get yourself to put the club on the ball properly. And many times when you're explaining that to them and cause and effect, they really are surprised that it's not as difficult as they thought it was, But when you explain to them, how the club and the ball should work together, and then look at them and say, now, based on your limitations, here's the things that we need to do in order to make those two to behave together. I think when you assess it that way and move in those directions, you can work around any limitations that you may come across. But then again, as I said before, there may be some limitations that you can address, and they can be, looked at and, have some kind of, whether it's a chiropractor or any other kind of physician who can look at some of those motions, physical therapy, some of the things like that can free those emotions up and make it a little bit easier for them to move. But I haven't seen over the years, I spent a long time with the golf schools and I haven't seen very many people that didn't have enough, motion to be able to play quite nicely. I've seen some with limitations, but, it wasn't enough that they couldn't play quite nicely. But, if you do run across those, you have to address them. And I think it's in the best interest of your student to address them early and right at the beginning to say, hey, look, here's what we need to do. And based on what you can do, here's the way we should approach it. So I think that'll be better for all of you in the end if you look at it in that relationship at the beginning.
Yeah, and that's a great point. A lot of times it may not necessarily be a permanent situation. It may not necessarily be a permanent physical limitation. It might be something as simple as some tight hamstrings or maybe a minor lower back issue that's preventing you from getting the best out of your game. So getting together with a certified professional that can help you, whether it be a physiotherapist or even a chiropractor in some cases, and then maybe putting that together with somebody that is a certified golf fitness instructor to help you work on specific exercises that are easily relatable, because people think, well, I'm going to the gym and I'm working out and that's great, but a lot of those exercises and a lot of those heavier weight routines that especially the young guys do is not really good for your golf game. In fact, it's counterproductive, and sometimes you have just some minor glitches that can affect your setup, that can affect your swing, and getting that assessed early on, and then finding the remedies through other professionals in conjunction with your coach can really make a big difference. You'd be surprised, and I know you pointed that out, Pete, that over the years we see a few people that may have more severe cases, but more often than not, they're relatively simple and things that can be very easily worked through, and it's just a matter of isolating and assessing that up front, and then putting together a good game plan along with other professionals to help them work through that. So some great point. John, I got one for you. I know this is one that you're well versed in, and that is balance. A lot of people have difficulty, and I know you've done some great articles and some great teaching through not only Golf Tips, but through your own John Hughes Golf. People have a tough time sometimes getting in good balance, and you've done some tips and drills to help improve that. Maybe you can share one or two with us, and I know you can't physically show us, but maybe you can give us an idea of some things that they can be doing at home to help improve their balance.
Okay, everybody, close your eyes and imagine how you're going to fall over as you do these things. Balance is the way of life. If you can't stay balanced, you're not going to be upright very long, and that's what I try to drive home to every client that I have. The reason why I push it is more for lifestyle, more for living life. And if you can remain balanced as you're, in particular, dynamically balanced, which all great athletes are able to do, you're going to be more successful at playing golf or any other athletic endeavor that you choose to participate in. Starting out very, very simple. Can you stand on one leg and find out how stable your ankles are? When I ask people to stand on one leg, most people will bend one of the knees forward, which puts the knee in front of the leg they're standing on, and the foot behind the leg, that they're standing on. When you go through rehab training, which I've been through 4 different rehabs for ACL issues with one leg, one of my knees, they start with balance of your non-surgical knee. And they take your surgical leg and keep it outstretched in front of you, pulling the toe towards your chin. It eliminates the counterbalancing of your knee and your foot. And can you hold that balance for roughly 30 seconds? This is the first balance exercise you go through if you're going through occupational rehab, if you're going through orthopedic rehab. It's one of the first measurements of your athletic ability and flexibility through the U.S. Olympic movement, through the training grounds that they have. It's one of the first things. You're going to be very surprised that your front foot, for the right hander, the left foot, you're probably okay standing on that for, say, a count of 10 without falling over. But anything beyond that, that's where you're going to be able to take the weight and some of the torque out of your left knee and be able to make turns in that direction. What will surprise you is your back leg. You're probably not going to be able to stand on that leg as long without being unstable with your ankle. And that's where it all starts. And if you can get ankle stability and balance going, hold on to a doorway. If you got a cane or a golf club or a broom or an umbrella, hold that in the opposite hand that you're standing on the leg. In other words, if you're standing on your left leg, hold it in your right hand to help you balance. But during this time, believe it or not, if you took 5 minutes a day, trying to hold each side 30 seconds, having the leg you're not standing on outstretched in front of you, trying to pull your toe towards your chin, as if you're trying to stretch out a calf when it's cramping, and be able to sit there and talk to someone and balance that, you're going to be real surprised how that's going to help. Very, very simple thing to do.
Yeah, balance is key, and you're exactly right. There's a lot of, things that you can be doing, and you've suggested a few here that we can be doing, because you'd be surprised at how many people really, especially those that have been sitting for several months and in the colder climates and haven't been out there, haven't really been keeping themselves fit, and then they get up there and they try to do things and they're just not in a good balance. So there's a lot of good things that you can do to check that, and there's also a lot of good tips and things, John, that you've given us here that you can do to first isolate whether you are having a balance issue, because that is obviously going to play a key role in playing better golf. But also there's things that help isolate and show you what you need to work on. Paul, I thought what I would do for this last one is not so much a question, but maybe a wrap up, if you would, to this segment. And just for those listeners at home that maybe 2 or 3 things that they can be doing right now, until we're able to get back out in full swing. And obviously, I know you've been doing some things online and that, so I'll let you, after you've finished, if you want to direct people how they can get in touch with you and how they can maybe participate in some of that. But maybe just sort of wrap up very quickly the segment on things that our golfers can be doing at home right now while they're waiting to get out of, for lack of better words, isolation. Just some quick things that maybe 2 or 3 points that they can be doing right now to be helping to improve their golf game.
Well, I think that, John's initial point about the fact that we're really trying to maintain what we've been doing and the hard work that we've been putting in, and that's really well taken. And I think not trying to do anything out of the ordinary in terms of changing your golf swing a great deal, especially if you're not able to see a golf ball fly, whether it's on a simulator or you're able to get out to some sort of a golf course if you're in a state where golf courses are open. You want to just work on the things that have worked for you in the past, and practice really simple things like controlling the face of the putter and getting the ball started on line. The face of the putter is, almost entirely responsible for the direction the golf ball is going. So can you aim the face where you want it to go, and can you return the face of the putter back to square? Drills that you can do working on your putting. And I also, I think that the more I teach, the more I kind of become aware that the way we move and our fitness really does dictate how we swing a golf club. So doing things to make sure that your core is strong. I think we're all probably sitting a little bit more than we're accustomed to right now. And getting up
right.
and, just keeping yourself moving, making sure that your hamstrings are loose, doing some squats. If you have a light kettlebell or a dumbbell at home, doing some squats with holding a kettlebell in the middle of your chest or a dumbbell, up and down kind of vertically, and some simple, deadlift type of exercises. There's a great training aid out there called the Gravity Fit that really helps with core engagement. And, I think if anybody we're going to use anything to kind of get themselves into fighting shape for golf right now, it's really one of the good ones. So look them up. And I would just say, this is a time where you're just trying to keep yourself moving. Gross and fine motor skills need to be maintained. We all love golf. We're going to be able to play golf later on this summer. So just make sure that you keep yourself moving and you're making swings every day. And you'll be able to find your game again for sure. So I am doing a fair amount of remote coaching, and it's been a very fun experience working on that, and trying to help my clients and even some new clients move along with their games. And you can find me on Instagram at Paul Castor Golf. My website's paulcastorgolf.com. And I'm also on Twitter under Paul Castor Golf, and my email is paul@paulcastorgolf.com if anybody wanted to reach out. So all fairly consistent, and Ted, I really appreciate you having me again, and we'll get out there on the golf course soon enough.
Well, Paul, as always, I appreciate it, and thank you for very nicely wrapping up tonight's Coach's Corner segment. You did a great job and hitting some of those points again, and letting the listeners know that, just because they can't get out right now doesn't mean that there aren't things that they can be doing in preparation. So well said. Pete, if you want to let the folks know the best way to reach you out as well, and then John. And I'm assuming Pete's still here. Pete, are you still with us?
There we go. I'm still here. Sorry about that.
Okay.
They can reach
go
me
ahead. I don't
know what was happening
go
there,
ahead.
but I've been used to that. I do a lot of talking and nobody listens. Anyway, they can reach me at plainsimplegolf.com. The Plain is PLANE. All of my contact information is out there, and we're doing a lot of remote coaching, and I've actually set up a net and a mat in my backyard, so we're going to be doing some live sessions as well. So be on the lookout for some of those. And again, Ted, thanks for having me on, and Paul and John, it was a pleasure. Nice being on with you guys tonight.
I appreciate it as always, Pete. Thank you for hammering some great points in the discussion. And John, finally, if you want to let the folks know the best way to reach you.
Great. Paul and Pete, again, my pleasure. Always an honor to be on the show with you. Ted, thanks again for inviting me on. It's always a pleasure to share the passion we all have with the people listening to the show. John Hughes Golf. Just remember that as far as a web address, my email address, my Twitter, my Facebook, my Instagram, my LinkedIn. It's all one and the same, johnhughesgolf.com. Be on the lookout probably Sunday or Monday. I've been working diligently trying to get a remote coaching platform with a video vault full of tips and so forth going. I actually do all my own work with that. It's been a busy spring, and unfortunately it's come to a grinding halt, but it hasn't kept me from trying to be as active as I can remotely with not only my clients but potential new clients as well. definitely some programs to look into. And one of the things I want to sort of sum up and say is this is a great time to get prepared for the bell when the bell rings. It's not necessarily a time to overthink things and or forget about anything. I go back to my original statement. Make this a time where you're trying to maintain your passion, maintain your physicality, but most importantly, maintain your patience. I think this is going to pay off for everybody in the long term. Thanks again, Ted.
I appreciate it. Thank you as always, guys. Great job tonight on the panel. And I hope that everybody listening after the show, go back and listen to it again, because there's some great tips in there from three gentlemen that know what they're talking about. And you can reach out through social media and the various websites and get in touch with these guys. They're all very active online and remotely as well, so there's no excuse for you to not connect with these guys and get out there and get some solid instruction in preparation for when we get back out there. So thanks, guys. Thanks, Pete, Paul, and John. Boy, it sounds like almost a remake of the Beatles here for a second, but thank you, guys, and have a great evening, and I look forward to you guys joining me again on the panel.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, George.
It was great being on with you guys.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys. All right. That was the gang, if you will, on tonight's Coach's Corner panel. Pete Buchanan, John Hughes, and Paul Castor. And again, you can reach out through their social media links and get in touch with them. They're a great group of guys and have been pretty regular here over the last several years. As I've mentioned here at the beginning of the season, this is season 8 for Golf Talk Live, and Coach's Corner started up the second year. So this is actually about 7 years for Coach's Corner panel, and most of these guys have sort of ridden along the way and really helped to grow the show and also helped a lot of you out there. So show them some love, if you will, and reach out to them and during this time and get some good tips on how to prepare for the season when we get in full swing, so to speak. All right, my very special guest was actually on my show several years back. He is the CEO of Nextlinks. I'm talking about Dave Shultz. And he spent more than 2 decades as an electrical engineer and operations executive at General Electric, or GE for short. As an aviation electronics technician in the United States Navy, he discovered a knack for problem solving on the avionics systems of A6 and the FA-18 aircrafts. So a very technical gentleman, but also very insightful. The seasoned technologist was also a key member on the Boeing 787 development project while at General Electric, or GE. But on St. Patrick's Day in 2015, he spotted his pot of gold, if you will, and began the trek over the rainbow, as he puts it. And as I said, CEO of Nextlinks, he's got some exciting things to share with us tonight. So please welcome tonight's very special guest, Dave Shultz. Dave, welcome back to Golf Talk Live.
Yeah, it's a pleasure
How are you
to be
doing?
here, man. I'm doing good. It's, the conditions are crazy. None of us thought we'd be, talking the way we are a month ago. But, it also feels like we're getting some glimmers of seeing some light and seeing how the economy might come back to life. So, mostly just keeping everybody in my thoughts and then, trying to keep grinding forward because, people that are in a position to add value, whether it's through their business or healthcare or social distancing, I think we all got to do what we can do.
Yeah, that'll be another, in the adding to Webster's dictionary, social distancing. I'm sure that'll be the next one. That's probably not the last we're going to hear about it, but yeah, it's been an interesting and boy, what a big contrast from just a few months ago when Dave and I met down at the PGA Merchandising Show at an after hours function. And through some mutual friends, and we actually met face to face, even though Dave had been on the show. And we had a great conversation. Of course, he's got some exciting things he's going to share that with us tonight. But we talked a little bit about that. But boy, what a big difference! I mean, we were out having a good time. We were at the PGA show down in Orlando, and mingling with a lot of our peers and others. And then here we are, a few months down the road, and other than talking to one another, we're basically standing away from one another. So it's kind of a big contrast, isn't it?
Oh yeah, no, it's really incredible. I mean, I just keep talking to people about like we're all living through something that in the history of the world has never happened before. This virus has caused us to turn off an entire global economy, and it's going to be, it's going to be challenging, but it's also going to be exciting watching it restart, because there's a lot, these kinds of things create a lot of new energy. They tend to bring forward value, and waste sort of falls away. That's that's just the result of these kinds of big global events like this, and there's never been one bigger than this one. So it's going to be interesting times. I'm excited about the future.
Yeah, and I think I agree. And really, what this has done for me, I've had some recent things, in a positive way that have happened to me recently, and I've shared that on the show before, but here over the last little bit. But what it's allowed me to do is sort of take a step back and really work through some of the processes, if you will, a little bit more in depth than perhaps I would have if things had stayed the status quo. So there's certainly been some adjustments, and it's at times it might seem inconvenient, but it's allowed me to do things that maybe I normally would not have had the time to do, or would have had to cram it in. So I look at it from a positive standpoint. It's a difficult thing, and we're all going through it together, but I agree with you. I think there's going to be some great innovation that's going to come out of this, and I think we're going to bounce back even better, and as a society even stronger as a result of this. But all right, Dave, let's talk about some golf, and let's kind of catch people up a little bit. Last time you were on, we were talking about reality, and I know you've transitioned quite a bit since then, and we know golf is hard. And we both know that, and it can be challenging and difficult. And you've really been working hard and making it accessible to more and more people. And you've had some great visions with Nextlink. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your overall vision? What is it that you're seeing yourself? You've got an extensive background with the aviation market, which has given you a very technical background, but it's allowed you to sort of really look at everything with a more finite perspective. So talk about Nextlink. What is Nextlink for those that aren't familiar with it, and what is your overall vision? What do you see moving forward with Nextlink?
No, sounds good. There's more than one. They're Nextlinks. So the Nextlinks is the technology company that's really the derivative of what was Reality Golf when we talked last time. So, when I saw, 5 years ago when this market was just beginning, most people thought of Topgolf as an experiment still, whereas now, everybody sort of accepted them as something new coming to the market and creating new energy. And so I just spotted that, and I what was powerful about that to me was how it was going to change the way people that don't golf view the game of golf. And, I just kept looking at that model, and that was my big aha. I said, what would be like the natural evolution of Topgolf? And I came up with this game where you play half of it through a screen with the simulators that have already been around for a long time, and then the rest, the real way you play golf on a traditional playing field. And I thought, man, that would be a fun alternative to the game of golf. Why don't I go invent that? And so that's how Reality Golf came to be. And about a year into the Reality Golf venture, I just could tell that I was a few years too early to the market with that big of a project and that big of a vision. And even though I had confidence in myself, I think people worried that I couldn't really bring the technology forward. So the last 3 years has been about, proving all those things and really working through the technology that would drive that venue and turning it into a scalable product line that we can sell and distribute and get out in the market. And it's really come out better than even I dreamed about. So we've got a small product now that sells for about the same price as a golf simulator, but it's a putting green. And we've got games that you play on the putting green, so it doesn't have to be real large, because we figured out how to create all the shape and contour however we design it. And we use these overhead spotlights, and we have 3 of them for each of our little game zones. And 2 of them we call pointers, and 1 of them we call a pattern maker. And they spin around on gimbals, and they point lights down at the playing field. And over the last 3 or 4 years, we've been writing software games that use the ability to sort of paint a picture on a putting green and turn it into a game, and create a little kiosk interface around that. And, lo and behold, a couple of years ago, the city of Indian Wells came to us looking to turn their putting green into an entertainment center and hired us to do it. And that's been operating a couple of years now, really successfully. We got a great case study out of that. And then we ran into some entertainment partners, sort of similar to Topgolf, but different, that had their own thing going on in Phoenix. And they had a big project with about a 20,000 square foot indoor-outdoor area, and they didn't quite know how to monetize it. And they came out to Indian Wells and saw that project. And then now we're in sort of a joint venture with them and working together, and we're putting 14 of these, all in the sort of heart of Phoenix. So at the same time we're bringing a product line forward, we can, scale into private purchases or hotels or, golf courses or wherever, teaching facilities. We're also bringing the same experience forward in the middle of the entertainment scene. And so my big vision is to create an alternative sport out of all of this. With all the league play and all the competition and everything. And, now it's getting closer and closer. The dream doesn't feel so far out of reach, Ted, because this product's going to sell like hotcakes.
Well, what's interesting is, you've talked about and with a number of different people, including myself, about really your vision and what you see. And we talked, as I said, when we were down together at the PGA show that evening for a little bit, and you explained a little bit more about it. And what was really interesting to me was it's something that is obviously different than what we that are in the golf industry typically look at. When we think of golf, we think of 18 holes, and we think of going out and either walking or hopping in a golf cart. And obviously, with, as you mentioned earlier, with Topgolf coming out, it sort of brought in a different model, and now you've taken it really a step further and turned it into even more of an entertainment platform based on around a golf theme. And what's really interesting about it, and I've been on, and I'm going to give, as we go along, I'm going to give the information and where people after the show can go and check out your website, because there's some really great, very high quality videos that you guys have put together that really sort of, better explained than what we can do here tonight on air. So I'm going to give them that information as we go along here. But you've really put a lot of thought into this, and I really, really like this model because, as you said, and I'm going to get you to give some examples, but it's not just a matter of getting on there and putting on the green and doing your typical golf. You've actually created, as you said, that other games can be played on this surface with the different software. So talk a little bit about some of the other things that people can do with the, with this vision.
Yeah, so it comes with 8 standard games, right? So the game that I love the most is just what we call the Nextlinks Challenge, which is just a series of par 2 holes where we shine the pointer down to your starting location, and we shine the pattern maker over one of the cups. And, our smallest green has like 3 or 4 cups on it, measures about 36 feet long by 16 feet wide. And so you go through a series of games, and we're able to, produce tee boxes and play 2 locations, flag sticks, using light beams. And so we can create just a tremendous amount of variation. And, the way we've contoured the greens, we have sort of a mix of traditional reads, when you're really working on your game. So our greens roll pure. They're 11 on the stem meter. They feel soft like you're at a country club. They're layered up. They're something we spent about 2.5 years figuring out how to do. The underlayment is dense foam, machined on a CNC mill. And so we can create those super fine shapes and contours that you come across on a real golf course. But we can also create a few little whoop-de-doos and stuff. And so we have a love of golf, and we also have a new golf customer called the non-golfer. And bringing them forward is about introducing them to the real playing surface with fun little unique games that are tailored to their skill level. And so, everything we do is tailored to multiple skill levels. So we use lights to dictate skill levels or colors, different color patterns and whatnot. Even in that Nextlinks Challenge, just that first game, a skilled player and a non-skilled player can play together because we have the pointer that shows you where your tee box is, go to an easier shot for the less skilled player, but you're both playing to the same flag stick each time. So it's like you're playing together, and the non-skilled player just got a little better shot to the green. And so you're just giving them a little handicap that way. And it makes it a lot of fun because they can compete on the scorecard. You don't have to go in after the fact and figure all that stuff out. And they feel like they're beating you. And then the only thing that happens is as they get better, you just won't play them on that skill level anymore because they keep taking your money, or you have to keep buying them a drink or something.
Well,
that's just one. So
right.
Real quick, there's 7 more like that they're just bunches of fun.
Well, what I was going to say was, what's interesting, and you really hit it on the head, the nail on the head, is you're really you're helping to bring in people that are typically not drawn to golf, people that maybe have never played golf. I was fortunate, and perhaps you were as well, growing up, my father played golf, so I got introduced to it very, very early. But there's a lot of folks out there, especially some of the next generations that maybe, didn't have the benefit of growing up in a golf family, so they really don't have the understanding or desire to play. But you've created a very unique model that, again, uses certain aspects of the game and made it fun and interesting. Because one of the biggest criticisms as a teaching professional that I hear with even diehard golfers is, when I get on the putting green, what do I do? It's it's boring, and I can putt to the hole and back to the hole, and it's very difficult to have to, as an amateur out there, for them to think up different games. And this is a fun thing that the family can get involved with, and your buddies can go out and have a great night, and there's drinks and whatnot as well to obviously add to the experience. But there's a lot of different games that can be played that are not typically golf games, but you're using obviously some of the tools of golf, like the putting surface, and you really mirrored the technology. I was very, very impressed when I went on the website and looked at that. And again, I'm going to let the folks know a little bit later on because I want them to check this out. But you really wanted to reach out to a market that typically would not be drawn to golf, correct?
Yeah, so that was the whole power of the whole idea from the beginning, right? So that's the magic of Topgolf, because what they've done is they've spent just hundreds of millions of dollars conditioning the mind of the non-golfer to all of a sudden see golf in a different way. So the non-golfer, they don't have this big distinction between Topgolf and golf other than what's fun and what's not, right? So the idea is to use Topgolf as the lure to get them in and then show them how much fun the real sport is, using, all these skills and gamifying them. So it works really well. I mean, we had a lab environment for 2 years before we got 2 years of customer-facing applications. So it was just, this was my sort of life journey when I chose it. So I was really careful about making sure we're ready to get to the market. And so then this pandemic happened, and I'm like, oh, crap. The only real problem we were having was not enough recurring revenues yet. And it's like they pulled everybody else back to the same condition that I was just getting ready to start at. So now we're all equal.
Yeah.
So,
and what's really interesting, and I just want to mention a couple of things just to give you an idea of some of the different games that are on here, again, that are not necessarily traditional golf games, but you're using your technology and you're using the playing field, if you will. But you can play darts, cornhole, beer pong, even shuffleboard. There's all kinds of different games that you guys have put together. And what's really unique about this, and again, for some of you non-golfers out there, or even golfers, this is a win-win for a lot of courses out there that are struggling to get people, especially new people, out to the golf course to play. And this is another product line, if you will, that they can offer them. So if somebody wants to, to go out to their club or local, golfing venue, and maybe they're not really wanting to play golf, but they want something to do. And country clubs especially, this is a great opportunity for them to have other, events, if you will. They can build an event around this this technology. So I think it's a win-win. Talk a little bit about that, because you've got some different products within the product, not just the games, but you've got outdoor, indoor, if you will, and even a canopy for situations. Talk a little bit about some of the varieties that people can do and use the overall platform.
Yeah, so it's easiest to understand if you just start with the simplest form, which is one game zone. So we think of one game zone as 576 square feet. And that doesn't include where you're going to put your couches and stuff. So think of one zone as 1,000 square feet. Add a couple hundred so you can put a couch and have people hang out. That creates an entertainment center for about 8 to 10 people with a handful of them playing the game at the same time. When you double it, so we built the game within that. We call that the Smart Green Pro. That sells for under $100,000, and it's going to be the way you can reserve these for parties, it pays for itself really quick. So we've got a bunch of scenarios to help customers understand how they get their money back. But it shouldn't take more than a year or two if they're in the right spots, and as long as they're doing some marketing and whatnot. So the cool thing about our technology is when you double it, it's not just that now you have two zones, you also have one larger zone. So now you can rent to a larger group, and then the whole surface becomes one game. Instead of just 3 spotlights, now there's 6, and you have 4 pointers and 2 pattern makers. And so now you have the back and forth games, that are, you're playing 40-foot putts back and forth to each other to these different kinds of patterns and stuff. And now when you get into that party size of about 20 people, that's when, people start pre-planning that kind of stuff. And they're, they call in advance. And so that starts getting advanced book reservations for the clubs. And then they make all the money on the F&B. So they book a reservation fee, which nobody ever has a problem with. It's, exactly the same model that they use for the driving range bays. And so you pay a little overhead fee for that, and then that's your sort of area to be entertained. And, you bring food service in there. And so the club throws a party, and they make a lot of money off a 2 or 3 hour party, and it, the part that's fun for me is when you go back to the daytime now, you've got this, world-class playing surface to use for teaching and, or competing and all kinds of other things. So it sort of becomes one thing in the evening when you want to monetize it, and it's a whole different thing in the daytime. So I listened to your earlier segment, and the guy was talking about the circle drill for putting.
Yep.
So we're going to be able to, automate all kinds of putting drills for teachers that are all customized. So as people start understanding our technology, they're going to give us, feedback on, hey, we'd like to do this. And so, being an engineer, that's what we've done is thought through, what are all the ways that we're going to be able to continue to customize this. So, back to the zones, you go from 2 to 4, and now the same thing happens, right? So now you can entertain 100 people. So the canopy system is 12 zones, and it's got room for a food truck. We've already spec'd the canopy. We've already learned all the hardware. There's a couple of entertainment areas. It's all loaded with all the bells and whistles. And so we're just selling that as a turnkey system because the operator can bring in a food truck, or they can have different operators come in. And it's just kind of like entertainment in a box. And we can do that. We can do that project with a revenue share just at our cost, or we can take our profit up front, and then, the owner or the customer can just handle and manage the whole thing. So, all this is getting me really excited, Ted, because I can tell that the product rocks, and all of the salespeople that have been coming to me the last 4 years looking to figure out how to get involved. We spent about the last 9 to 12 months, building this product line to make sure that we knew how to take orders, and so what's sort of naturally happening is I'm learning what the next jobs are going to be, and what they are is they're relationship managers. So transactionally, we've got this sales process pretty figured out, and so as we start finding salespeople, what they're really going to get a territory, and then they'll get sales credit, for any sales that happen in their territory, and their real job's just going to be to make sure that they're taking care of the people that are using and buying our product in that region, because we're going to want that feedback, and that's how we're going to continue to grow as a business.
And Dave, the other thing too that's really a couple of points I was thinking about, and first and foremost, a situation that a lot of clubs, especially golf courses or resorts, have is obviously in times of bad weather. You can't help it. It happens. You've booked to play around, and suddenly a storm comes up and you can't get out in the golf course. Well, now the courses and the resorts particularly can offer this as an alternative for some of their members and some of their customers to say, hey, we've got something else besides just going out and playing the 18 here. They can utilize that. So again, that's another, as you mentioned, another revenue stream for some of these facilities. And then the other thing too that I was thinking about is, as you mentioned about hosting different events there, a lot of our corporate clients out there, for those of us in the golf business, they want to have an event at a particular course. And one of the problems with that is if you're a golfer, hey, that's great. You get the day off work and you're going out there and you're intermingling with your coworkers out in the golf course and maybe some clients. But there's other folks that are part of that business that are sort of excluded because they're not traditionally golfers. This particular product line that you're proposing, again, can really amplify a corporate event. Because they, again, in the evening they can turn it into a really great opportunity to host, again, clients and things like that. So they can, have the tournament during the day, and then in the evening they can host and have a great event at utilizing the smart green technology. That's obviously something that is going to be very, very beneficial for a lot of the courses. Correct?
Oh, yeah. Well, so if you think about entrepreneurs, right? They like. What we really do is we solve our own problems. So, that's what I did for a living. Remember, I was a corporate leader for GE.
Right.
And I used to be the one that had to plan events for my team and stuff. And I never chose golf. So it's my favorite sport in the world, but I never chose it because I knew that it was going to have that effect on some people. And I was known as the golf guy, right? So if the golf guy manager chooses golf as the activity, it doesn't look like he's really thinking for his team, or she is, right? It looks like that, gives a possible impression that they're just looking out for themselves. And so that was a problem for me. And so I never picked golf, and we never did golf. And and so that's really at the real soul of our product is about bridging the gap between the non-golfer and the golfer and creating an environment where they coexist. That was like one of our original core philosophies.
Well, and that's something, Dave, that I've had even guests on the show that were corporate types that worked for years, in corporate America, and were not traditionally golfers, and they. One of the things that drew them to golf was the fact that they were tired of coming in on Monday morning and their fellow coworkers, particularly for women, because a lot of them were much newer to the game and didn't really understand it, and here their male coworkers are coming in and they're talking about a great round of golf they had with their buddies on the weekend, or they took a client out on Friday or whatever day and really got some good business out of it. And they were feeling left out. So this gives, the traditional non-golfers an opportunity to sort of get their feet wet, get out and have a good time, and again, create some events for clients. And then obviously you're going to, by natural proximity, you're going to get some overflow from people coming in using what you're putting forth here that are going to say, hey, I'd like to try golf. I've never played before, but here I am, and it seems kind of a lot more interesting than what I thought it was. So they're kind of getting a sample, if you will, but a very technologically advanced sample. Yeah,
I mean, now you're just getting at the heart of the whole thing, Ted, which is that that's what I gave myself as a life journey. So the rest of my existence is going to be about sort of continuing to bridge the gap between traditional golf and real golf. I still see a future where there's fewer green grass golf courses, but they're very special places to be. And they're sort of the graduation, right? They are aspirational. There's an element of golf that is aspirational and will always be that way. It's part of the core culture of the game. And so it's always been difficult to grow because it needed some sort of an access point that just didn't exist. And until, until a business model like Topgolf rolls around and starts conditioning people to want to golf more, then the energy isn't there to go do it. The people in charge of the golf industry, love the game just the way it is. And that, change is tough, right? And so even within the golf industry, that's been a big challenge.
Well, and what makes your model very unique and I think really long-term more appealing for the average person out there, and this is not a knock against Topgolf, but one problem with Topgolf is, you've now got to get up there and you got to swing a club and, hit the ball out into their range. And for some people that's very intimidating, but most people have played, putt-putt or mini-putt golf, and they're not as uncomfortable getting on a putting surface as they are hitting, more full shot. And again, I know Topgolf has some great has a great platform as well, but yours is more unique because it's going to appeal to a lot of people that maybe are very intimidated or uncomfortable, especially if they've never played golf. Getting up there with their 7 or 8 iron or something and having to hit an actual golf ball, whereas they can putt it 10, 20, or 30 feet and not really feel intimidated. So, and you've made it fun, which is even more. And I can see this. I can guarantee you, this is going to be a hit, particularly with the younger generation in certain elements, because again, you've got a variety of different games that are outside of the traditional golf game. They like technology. They like to, do things that are interesting like that. So I can really see this being an attractive event, if you will, for some of our youth. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no. I mean, Ted, my son it was his 21st birthday the day we thought of this, and the reason I thought of it is because he was killing me, right? So I was working as a corporate guy, and my son was a senior in college. And he worked at the golf course, and he was just working me over. I'd been playing a lot of tennis, and I'm just like cursing the golf industry for not having a better answer. And then, so I came at this really from a golfer's perspective at the beginning. I think everybody kind of saw, here's this crazy golfer thinks he's going to change the world. But as I developed the product, remember my job is a product development engineer, so I'm very rigorous about requirements and, how things need to come together. And it just took 5 years for us to get to the starting line with the product that's going to, really position to make a difference. And so it all is about the non-golfer, because it's really the ratio of people, right? So there's like 325 million people in the United States, and only 25 million of them would consider themselves golfers. So you've got 300 million people that all of a sudden think of this new way of engaging with golf. And so the idea is you just take advantage of that mental shift. You get them onto a putting green, and now instead of a mini golf putting green, so from a monetization, it works better because it's play in place, right? So that's why it has to be that way, because you have to be able to have a group of 8 or 10 people where some of them are playing and some of them are socializing. Not everybody wants to play at the same time. And that's what's fun about, that social gathering, and that monetizes well. But then you also have to have, all these fun varieties and things.
Yeah, and that's the key. That's I think going to be the key right there is the fact that you have a variety of options that people can play. It's not all the same. It's not just golf. Again, I know you're using the putting surface and so forth, but you've incorporated, and I'm quite certain if you're not already working on it, right now you've got 8 different games available, but I'm sure you're working on other concepts as well to add to that repertoire, because now you've got the base platform set in stone, if you will. Now it's just a matter of writing new software for different games that can be added. So really it's endless, right?
Oh yeah, so now the next phase will be getting rid of all the human interfaces. So right now there's a kiosk where you keep your score. The natural evolution will be, we'll just make everything automatic, so that whatever you're playing the game, you're just kind of following a scoreboard and watching it score, and it all works. And we can do that with camera technology and other things. And then in terms of game development, like Indian Wells is a great example. We came up with a new game we thought would be fun, and it's just think of a flashlight beam, right? That's solid, and then it goes away around the edges. And so just different colors and different sizes. And so the flash rally beam would go from smaller to bigger to bigger. And our idea was kind of like at the end of a tournament when you sort of have the group horse race and everybody pitches in and then some people advance. Our idea was you'd pitch into a circle or putt into a circle. And if you got your ball in the circle, then you have to putt to the next smaller circle on the next one. And then people started playing the game and they started doing it differently. They started with the small circle and all lined their balls up around the perimeter edge of the spotlight in different places. And then if they made it, they advanced and they make the next one a little bit bigger and then fewer people on it. And so, we watched them do that. We got that feedback, and now we're starting to number the positions, to make it more so you're not always putting the same putt from a different distance, and, you have a player number and that kind of stuff. So, yeah, technology that we have in the world applied to an environment that has some golf things, like a putting green that rolls like a real putting green, you can do a lot of neat stuff. And so that's the company that's what Nextlinks is all about, right? So I think of Nextlinks as a software and a technology company that's going to keep filling the sort of missing pieces and listening to the customer and just continuing to evolve this base platform that we've already created. And so that, I call it infrastructure and technology because these putting greens are like a new infrastructure. If you want, you can create an asset around them, I'm sure, and amortize them over years so you don't have to pay for them all in the first year. You can make money off it in the meantime, so it actually looks good on your, on your balance sheet and stuff. So we've just thought through everything, Ted. That's what I did. My first company, we sold things to key customers and key accounts that were expensive things. They were vibration sensors, not putting greens. But so that's what I know. And so naturally my business becomes what you know, right? And so our smallest product sells for about, $80,000, and we'll have projects that are, $10 million probably in the future, because this whole thing scales from the smallest unit to the big experience level.
Right. Well, and also too, a couple more things that I was thinking about is the opportunity even for sponsorships and things like that, where you can get, corporations that may look at opportunities of advertising their product or brand in the various facilities, and this could again help with the different locations in helping to absorb some. I mean, obviously they're going to make it back with some time and some of the models that you've talked about, but they can also reach out to some of their bigger corporate sponsors and say, look, we can put some things in place to, as our patrons are coming in and using the facility, they're going to see your brand and obviously because you're going to be serving, you basically you're going to have the option of serving drinks and things like that. You can get some of your big suppliers like Anheuser-Busch and things like that can come in and do some very creative marketing as well. And the other thing too, and I don't know whether this is available yet, but I can see this maybe down the road if it's not already possible, but again, because of the technology, and once more of them are in place, you could even create an environment where you could almost have gaming tournaments, much like they do, you see in Las Vegas now with certain games, where different facilities can connect through the internet, and you can literally have groups that come in and compete against one another in various corners around the world. Is that something that you're have thought out and thought about, or is that something that you feel?
Of course, no. So we're already preparing. So, in Phoenix, we're putting 14 of these things all in one place in the middle of a 60,000 square foot entertainment zone. That is going to be amazing. It's in just this great location in Mesa. So that's going to be where we're going to have our first sort of real tournament. And what that is it's actually 7 of our Pro 2X systems, which are 72 feet long and 16 feet wide. Well, the green contours that are going in there are the same green contours we're selling on the satellite systems, right? The Pro 2X when you buy it just as an amenity or to add to your sports bar or whatever. And so you're actually playing the same games on the same field in different locations. So it's like being able to take all the contours of your favorite club and everybody can have those same contours, And so it's going to create imagine how that gets in terms of being good at putting, Ted. So remember, we spent 2.5 years learning how to build putting greens. And we went back and forth. Do we spec them? Do we buy them? Do we work with somebody? Do we do them ourselves? And the answer came down to we have to do them ourselves because they all roll the same. They're all the same pureness, right? It's our surface.
Right.
We own it. And so now people are going to get very good at playing the games that we've created on that surface. And I would say even better than what you see on the tour, because in tournaments, they always have to go warm up and, play different greens that roll different and figure out the reads. We're going to have people that know this putt, it could be a 30-foot putt and they can show up in a different location and it's the exact same putt, right? So all of a sudden you're creating these games with long putts that people have really gotten highly skilled at. And then, the video games that are real popular right now are things like Golf Clash and World Golf Tour. And what these are is they're little 5-minute head-to-head competitions where you play one hole head-to-head, and then you have a playoff. So we're already thinking of how to bring that up into the real world, right, by playing, head-to-head drive into the simulator, a head-to-head putt. If you tie, then there's a playoff putt, and the playoff putt could be some really hard putt. And now people can come in and start practicing that putt. And you know how in those formats, you get a lot of ties, and then somebody wins a point no matter what on the playoff shot. And so I could see people really getting skilled at the playoff shots if they knew they're going to get one of, 5 different shots every time they had a playoff. They're going to get really good at all 5 of those shots so that they can win these tournaments, and then they become, more skilled at this game.
And really, David, it opens up a really world of possibilities. I mean, as we talked about earlier, you're also going to have TrackMan Swing Simulator available as well. So for folks that want to have that experience, they can you've integrated the smart green technology and are able to offer a full round of golf indoors. So for those that enjoy that experience as well, that's also going to be available through your models.
Where that's at,
Go ahead.
Ed, we work with a bunch of different simulator companies, but the only one that we've taken all the way home is with TrackMan. So we've got prototype software where we play through, and so we're starting to see a lot more interest in that product and getting a lot more serious about delivering it, and we're taking orders on future deliveries, right? So we're basically going to take future orders and say, okay, they want this, and then that'll give us the fuel to go finish the software development to make that game complete.
Mm-hmm. But that, and like I said, what's unique about that is, it's opening up a new door. I mean, obviously we know that there's simulators around and so on and so forth and other venues, but putting that together with what you're proposing, again, sort of gives a well-rounded package. And I can really see it. People are really struggling for entertainment value right now and looking for things to do. And again, for those that maybe are not your traditional golfers yet or may never become traditional golfers, this is a great way to introduce them to, the game, but in a unique and different way. And again, the possibilities are really endless, both from a corporate perspective, but also from a venue perspective. Again, I mean, traditionally your country clubs, they would have, for their members, they would offer things like dances or they would have, weddings and things like that to help supplement their income and their revenue streams. But now with technology and the different products available out there, now they're able to, with really a very reasonable investment for what they're getting, can now open up and provide a much better entertainment value than what they traditionally were. And I think that's really what you're going for, correct?
Yeah, well, 100%, right? So it was, a lot of people, are frustrated that it took me 5 years to get this business off the ground because they could see the value 5 years ago, right?
Right.
The problem is that once you start delivering something, then you've complicated your business. So we spent a little extra time in the lab in front of customers, making sure we understood our product and how it monetizes for our customer. But this has always been, for me, about recognizing that I did really good product development in my old job. I got some of the toughest projects and I, brought them home. And so I saw this and I'm like, wow, I could totally design a product that would help golf grow, and it would also entertain people. And if I could design that product, I could just sell the product for a profit and let everybody else take advantage of the recurring revenues for, a large part of the equation. So, like I said, we'll go both ways. We'll partner with people or we'll sell the system. But mainly, I'm not the kind of person that would ever put my name on something that wasn't going to be, the best thing available. It's just, it's who I am. So I put everything I had into this one, and it's pretty exciting to, when you're on one of these journeys, Ted, nobody will help you with capital until you're all the way there. And I don't blame them, because the way it works is,
right.
If I come to you and I say, Ted, I'm 95% of the way there, man, I just need a few $1,000. You immediately go, well, if you need a few $1,000, you're not 95% of the way there, right? You just
right.
story up,
right.
like nobody's ever 95% of the way there. You're 30% of the way
right.
there. You're 20%, right?
Right.
So, but the difference is, once you're 100% of the way there, then all of that goes in the bank, right? It's kind of like playing Who Wants
right.
to Be a Millionaire.
right.
So about a year ago, I knew I had the product, but I didn't have much money left, and so I couldn't figure out how to put the marketing and sales front end on it. And lo and behold, just like I thought would happen, if I built the right product, the right people start coming forward and creating that value for you. So I've had some really amazing, talented people show up. They've shown up throughout the years, but the ones that are still with us now, that are core to our team,
right.
Showed up just at the right time, and they put a lot of sweat energy into helping us get ready. So all that stuff you see on our website, all the, people used to look at our website and they're like, wow, this looks like a cool company, but I don't have a clue what they do. So
right.
now it's all structured for sales. And so it's, that's what it was all the 5 years up till now was me making a lot of noise, so that when we got ready, people would remember, a few people would remember that we're actually out here trying to, make a difference. Because if we just show up today out of nowhere and nobody knew who we were, that would be bad too.
Right.
Well,
so
I didn't.
going back
I put all my money into product development, Ted, and then I used my own voice. I became sort of our chief salesman for the last 5 years, and managed to land a pretty, couple of pretty lucrative sales contracts. All the while, sort of figuring out how to put this thing into a form where we can share it with everybody.
Right, and just to go back to your earlier point is, it takes time. I mean, you could have, like you said, when you had the initial idea, you could have brought it to market very quickly and tried to scale it. But the problem is that until you really know that it's going to be solid, the idea and the vision is great, but as you said, you have to wait until you're able to really express what it is that you want to do. Before you're going to attract a more captive audience. And I think, even though it's been a long journey in many ways, it's allowed you the opportunity to go back and tweak and adjust things that you needed to do. And again, you brought the right people in at the right time, and now you're going to start seeing things move much quicker. Whereas if you had have done it the other way around and brought it to market a little sooner, when maybe things weren't quite where they needed to be, it probably might not have taken off, or the end product that would have come out may not have been, for lack of better words, up to snuff. And then, it's just, well, no, that's just a sinking ship. And so I think you were smart in holding off and waiting for the right time. And now the right people are, as I said, coming into place. And I think it's going to be very, very successful. I have no doubt about that. I think it's a great product. And as I said, when we send the listeners to have a look at your website, and I'm going to put that link up tonight on my social media. I really want people to take a look, because it's incredible. I think you've done a great job in putting it together, and it's a great vision. And I have no doubt, Dave, that it's going to be very successful.
No, that's true. And then on LinkedIn also, Ted. So how people look me up on LinkedIn, because I was one of those people that just, when I had this idea, I decided it was my life's journey, and so I decided to document pretty much everything. And so that's, I've been sort of sharing, my story as a living diary of sorts on LinkedIn for the better part of 5 years. And it's kind of fun now, because that's going to be our primary lead generation advertising as well. There's a lot of great business-to-business contacts on that platform.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like I said, it's a win-win really for everybody. I mean, it's for the general public. There's a lot of great thought went into the entertainment value. But from a corporate perspective, I mean, there's some really great things that corporate partners that get involved with this down the road and can work together with venues and as you said, hotels and even casinos. I mean, I can see this popping up in Las Vegas.
Well, and with everything going on. So about a year and a half ago, I was really thinking that it was going to be the luxury private home market that was our first to really take hold. And now I'm still not so sure that the luxury private home market won't be one of our hottest early markets because fewer people do want to. There's this nervousness around this virus going
right.
until we have it under control. And so people that have the freedom of having the luxury of capital to having a nice amenity at their house, that's something that's going to be more of interest than it was in the past.
Sure.
So I'm starting to feel that a little bit too.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that's the beauty of this model is you can really take advantage of a variety of different markets. It's not just the general public, but yeah, you're right. Private, corporate types that have the capital, as you said, can bring this into their own, realm, if you will. But I think you're not going to have anything to worry about. I think once this initial virus has passed on, and I think people will. You'd be surprised. I mean, they have for many, many years. When we've had crisis situations, it's always a little bit nervous in the beginning, but then people circle around and move on. So I don't think that's going to be an issue, and I think there'll be opportunities regardless, and it may be a little slower in some ways, but I think you're going to pick up and really move forward. But let's give them the information, Dave. Let's tell them where they can go and check this out and get more information.
Yeah, so the primary would just be go to our website, which is nextlinks.com. And like I said, Nextlinks used to have a lot of information about sort of our science experiments and those things, and now it's more of a product line portal, right? So that's how you go figure out, hey, I'm interested in buying something and I want to do an inquiry, I want to see the buyer's guide, that kind of stuff. YouTube, if you just search like Nextlinks Golf or Dave Shultz Nextlinks or Reality, we've been dropping pebbles for years, and there's some great old media out there, that shares, sort of the development cycle that we went through. So that's kind of fun for people. And then on the business side, LinkedIn, me personally, Dave Shultz with no C, Shultz.
Right.
And I've been active on that platform for years and years, and many of my, like today's relationships came from that platform. So I love connecting with people. And then we've got a Nextlinks, we've got a Nextlinks business element of the LinkedIn site, which our team is just starting to take that over. And so that's going to be over the next few weeks. We're really launching our first sort of lead generation campaign. So you're going to see a lot of new information coming forward, about sort of how to introduce you to our product and then how to get you a little more interested, and then finally how to get you to the line to write us a check and go ahead and make the purchase. So that whole campaign is starting here in the next couple of weeks. And then, obviously we didn't talk a lot about the Revelry because of this downtime, but the Revelry in Mesa, it's a great project to look at, therevelry.com. And then obviously Shots in the Night at Indian Wells is our other customer-facing project, and there's a lot of media and information out there about that as well.
Perfect. Well, I think, like I said, I think it's really a win-win situation, and I'm happy to help you promote it any way I can. And one of, as I've mentioned earlier at the top of the show, I didn't get specific, but I'm going to mention it now. But one of my recent acquisitions was I became the owner-publisher of Golf Tips magazine. So I think there may be some opportunities that you and I can work together through that to help further get the message out there. So we'll talk about that at a later point. But David, I think you've worked very hard. Obviously, we know that, and obviously you're very passionate about that. And I'm excited. I truly am. I'm really excited for Nextlinks and the smart green technology that that you guys have created. And I'm excited to see where this thing goes over the next little bit. So thank you very much. And if they want to reach out to you, Dave, if there's some corporate partners or whatnot that might be listening that want to reach out to you, what's the best way to contact you?
The best way is just my email, dave@nextlinks.com. Or I'm happy to give my cell phone out. I don't know if you allow it on this platform, but you can shoot me a text. Is that a yes or no?
Yeah, you're welcome to whatever you want, or if you want to just direct them to your LinkedIn page, they can connect with you if they're on LinkedIn.
Yeah, LinkedIn is the best way. Send me a private message on LinkedIn, and then we usually trade phone numbers that way, and have a phone call, and then one thing leads to another usually. So that's the way I like it. It's fun. I'm really enjoying getting to know everybody. Mainly, I'm feeling more purposeful about this thing because I know we got a business that's ready to go grow, and I know it can do a lot of good, and I know it can create a lot of jobs, and I know there's a lot of people worried about what their future looks like. So.
Right.
This really is for me now full circle where I kind of go, oh, wow, we created a great product and now we have a full business around it. Now we have a responsibility to make sure it succeeds because it can do a lot of good.
Sounds good. The website is nextlinks.com. Make sure that you all go and check it out after the show. And I want to take this opportunity once again to thank my very special guest this evening, the CEO of Nextlinks, Dave Shultz. Dave, thank you very much for coming on, and you're welcome back anytime. And keep me posted on what transpires as the months unfold. And we'll talk again. And like I said, maybe through the magazine and through some other channels, we can work together on helping get that message out there.
Yeah, no, that sounds great, Ted. I look forward to working more and more together, and that goes for a lot of other people too.
All right. Thank you, my friend. You have a good one, and stay safe.
All right, you too. Thanks again. Bye-bye.
You're welcome. All right, good night. All right, that was my very special guest, Dave Shultz, CEO of Nextlinks. Again, you want to check it out, go to nextlinks.com. There's some great information on the website, and there's some really, really good quality videos that they've put up there, really giving you an overview of what you can expect through that model. So definitely check it out, and you can reach out to Dave on LinkedIn as well. It's Dave Shultz, and it's SHULTZ. And again, he's the CEO of Nextlinks, and I'm sure you can reach out through the website as well. I want to thank once again Pete Buchanan, John Hughes, and Paul Castor on the Coach's Corner panel for joining me earlier on. Guys, you did a great job, and I want to thank all of you once again. And I will be back next week with another great group on the Coach's Corner panel and another special guest. So I hope you'll join me here on Golf Talk Live. Make sure you go to golftipsmag.com, subscribe to the magazine, and you can also on there is a link you can sign up for the newsletter as well if you're not already on. And you can follow me on virtually all of the social media platforms and also the magazine at Golf Tips Mag. So thanks, everybody. God bless, and have a great weekend, and stay safe, everybody. Thank you. Thanks for listening to this evening's broadcast of Golf Talk Live. Remember to tune in each week at blogtalkradio.com/Golf Talk Live. If you can't join us live, check out the on-demand section for previously aired broadcasts, or listen on any of the following social media platforms: iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, CastBox, TalkStream Live, and of course Spotify. To get updates on future shows and upcoming guests, be sure to visit the show's Facebook page, Golf Talk Live Blog. You can also follow me on Twitter at Ted and Buck CEO. Remember to join me live each week for another great broadcast of Golf Talk Live. See you next time. This has been a production of the iGolf Sports Network.